We're back with the Entrepreneur KC Show.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneur KC Show. I'm Sarah Davidson with my amazing co-host, Jason Grill.
Sarah, it's lovely to be here today. I'm excited about this next guest. He's a great man. I
am so excited to have him. So this guy, I met Harry S. Campbell. He goes by Harry at, I don't know, an event, or I think it was the Raise Mobile launch party a few months ago. And he is a serial entrepreneur, has over 2 decades of success as a leader and or owner of companies ranging in size from Fortune 500 to startups, has his hands in a lot of different things, and he is a thought leader in the space of entrepreneurship and leadership. So welcome, Harry.
Well, thanks so much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So thanks so much for coming. And, I just adore you. I love your energy. And I think you're probably everyone's favorite person in the startup community. So, and one of the most modest people I've met. So I would love for you to tell a little bit about what your story is and your background in
this community. Yes.
I'd be delighted to do that. I came to Kansas City in the spring of 1992, and I'm not leaving, by the way. So I'm closing in on 21 years. I love it here. I came from Procter & Gamble, and I came to work for Sprint. But in the 21 years here, I've had kind of a winding road that's been fascinating and blessed in the same way. Worked for Sprint, quit, co-owner of a sports marketing firm called MAI, who happened to have won the Mr. K Award for Small Business of the Year in 1998,
wow.
Which was cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was an experience beyond belief.
So you
it was
say
fantastic.
you're a mild sports fan?
Yes.
What did you do at that? What did you do at that company? Yeah, I'd like to talk a little sports here, Sarah, if you will. What was the marketing company that you got awarded for?
I was a co-owner with Mitch Wheeler, and what we did was we represented companies that wanted to use sports to build their business.
That's awesome.
And so we weren't an agent and didn't work with athletes, but we worked with companies, and it was just a phenomenal company. I loved it. We were in the top 10, if you're familiar with that program the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce does.
Yeah.
They pick the top 10 companies, vet them, and celebrate with them, and then choose the Mr. K Award winner, and that was us, which was excellent. For 1998, it was fun.
So that was like kind of your experience in Procter & Gamble working with brands, and you kind of saw an opportunity there to bridge the gap?
That's exactly right. And, P&G is a great place to have been from. I was a history major and then got an MBA and then went directly to P&G and spent 7 years working in brand. And brand management or marketing at P&G is just a phenomenal training ground. So when I came to Sprint, I had an excellent foundation. Sprint was a great place to work for 5 or 6 years. And then all of a sudden I found myself working at a 20-person company in corporate woods in sports, which was a dream. I loved it.
It's awesome.
Great. Okay.
And then, of course, sometimes you make crazy decisions. I sold my half of the business and got into the internet startup world. If anybody, you all are rather young, but
I remember it.
In 98, 99, and 00, the NASDAQ and everything else was exploding, and most of those companies on the West Coast wanted Procter & Gamble alumni to help them run it. So I was interviewing and trying to figure out where I wanted to go work in the San Francisco Bay Area. The great news is that I ended up in the internet startup world, but I ended up in Kansas City. I was the CEO of UClick, which was a spinoff from Andrews McMeel in the River Market. Had a phenomenal experience trying to raise money and run the business and grow it, but I did not move my family to San Francisco, and I think, frankly, that was one of the better things that ever happened
Harry.
For my
And that
standpoint.
is why we have Harry on the show today, as a Kansas Cityan.
Exactly. Well, after that, we decided
it's possible to do it here, guys.
It is possible. We rolled that company back into Andrews McMeel, and I actually went back to the big company, went back to Sprint, and then with the Embark spinoff. What's crazy about it is if you go from Sprint to startup to small company and then back to Sprint, it's a bit of a cold shower. Instead of trying to figure out whether you're going to the Super Bowl and which plane you're taking out there, you're now trying to figure out how to empty your own garbage can for a few years.
Right.
And I think all executives should go through that, although that boot camp isn't for everybody. I loved it, and it made my second experience in large companies much different, and I would argue much better.
Yeah. So you were somewhat, you led the consumer markets division at Embark, which is a spinoff from Sprint. So what was that like?
I think it was my favorite job I've ever had. I was in that job for 4 years before Embark was sold to CenturyTel out of Monroe, Louisiana. I had close to a $3 billion P&L, 3,500 people in my group, a fantastic lead team, and a business that was challenged but just extraordinarily fun to run. I loved it. Frankly, I wish we hadn't sold, but we did, and that enabled me to become immersed again in the entrepreneurial world of Kansas City, which has proven to be very cool in the last 3 years.
And talk to me about that. Talk to me about what you're doing now, Harry, in that community, because I think a lot of people know you around town, but what are you working on now? I know you've got a lot of things going on.
I practice this answer, and it's still not sufficient. What I do is I do breakfast and lunch for a living, and I invest in businesses in Kansas City, and that's the truth. I'm a connector. I love to meet people. I'm curious. I try to find businesses and understand successful businesses in town and what they do and why they make money, and just have fun with it. At the same time, I've angel invested in a couple companies, and I choose my angel investments based on business models, of course, but mainly based on the people. I love investing in young people that I believe have the chance to win over time because they're flexible, they're smart, they treat people right, etc. And I also bought a little company that I have a friend of mine is the CEO, and he runs it. It's a 4-person company that I believe has very bright prospects. So I would say I'm a networker, and I'm an investor in small businesses in Kansas City, and it's a cool thing to do.
That's awesome.
Can you tell us what that company is?
Sure. It's called Idle Smart.
Yep.
We've had them on the show, Harry.
I just wanted you to say
Oh, that's
it.
right. You know what? Jeff Lynch was here. Man, is he good.
Yeah.
He is good.
Is Ryan on with you too?
Yeah, Ryan was,
Ryan
and
Bennett?
we've had Ryan on a few times with Casey Roundtable and Idle Smart, and Ryan is a great guy, and
Yes.
he's done a great job for Idle Smart.
And one of the things that when we had Jeff on that was very apparent is that he genuinely cares about people and the type of company that he builds. And I think that, that's probably why you guys are so aligned. And that's one of the things I love so much about you. And it's very apparent that you're passionate about that. And I know you have a book. You're an author and speaker. You're traveling all over the place, and you work with all companies of different shapes and sizes. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes, I talked about what I do for a living. This is more in the capitalistic side. Now I'll go to where I spend most of my time, and that is traveling and speaking on leadership around the country. If I like to say, if you give me an audience, a microphone, and 10 minutes of prep, I'll talk about anything. So it's something I love. And my parents are teachers, so I have the good gene there. What I did was decided to capture my stories and thoughts on leadership. It's called Get Real Leadership. It's available on Amazon. It's a book. It was published just over a year ago. February 6th was the 1-year anniversary. I have sold 2,003 copies, so I'm proud to have gone past the 2K mark.
Nice.
And more importantly, it's a calling card for me to get keynote speeches around the country for organizations and small and medium businesses, and even some large ones. I've done 25 speeches. The very cool part about it is everything from Get Real Leadership, 100% of the book royalties and 100% of the gross speaking fees, that's gross speaking fees, go to Head for the Cure, which is a brain cancer charity in Kansas City in honor of my wife. I love doing this. And I've raised $57,000 in the last 12 months doing that, and I intend to do better than that in the next year.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about Head for the Cure.
Head for the Cure is a fantastic organization. Matt Anthony, the global chairman for VML, heads it up. He's the chairman of our board. He started it in 2003 when he lost his brother to a brain tumor. And we've run an event, and it started really just as an event in Kansas City to try to raise money. We're now in multiple cities. This year we'll probably be in 10 cities. We will raise somewhere around $700,000 or $800,000 gross, with 90% of that being donated to MD Anderson run organization called it's a Brain Tumor Trials Collaborative. So it's rapidly growing. We expect to be in 30 cities in the next 5 years. And what we want to do is really, really raise money to address brain tumors and brain cancer, because it's an underfunded disease that is just awful and touches many people, including Matt's life. And my wife, Chris, unfortunately, has been diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor.
Harry, tell me a little bit about your 7 words about leadership. I'm intrigued by this because you say you work with a lot of young folks, and I think that's great. And I just what are some of those 7 words and the advice you have for young entrepreneurs out there?
Let me start with the advice, and then I'll go into the words. I'm a very simple person, and the things I look for at big companies are the same thing I look for in entrepreneurs that I'm convinced will be successful, and they have to do with flexibility, not assuming you're right all the time, willingness to listen to input. And flexibility in a little company could mean changing the business model. Flexibility in a big company could mean adapting to different styles, environments of a boss. Doesn't matter. Flexibility is key. Second of all, it really comes to connectivity. I love people that want to be connected to other people. I think relationships drive the world. It helps you get things done in big companies. It helps you solve problems in little companies and maybe gain funding or gain expertise. Mm-hmm. The third thing I would do is treat people well. Sarah, you mentioned it with Jeff Lynch, and I know this is the way Ryan feels. And the people that I surround myself with, I like A-plus players who are nice. And I love using the word nice because some people think it's trite. I don't. I want to find people that treat people well, whether it's a waiter in a restaurant or their parents or their friends. If you find people like that, I'm convinced that you have a 3x better chance for success. So my advice is be flexible. Think about your connections and who you spend your time with and why and how. And third of all is treat people well. If you do that, the world is going to lay out in front of you in a way that I think you can never imagine.
Harry, that is why I work with Sarah and spend a lot of time with Sarah, my man, because she's a great person, and I'm glad that she so, and Harry, you got a lot of things going on, but how can people, we're down to the last few minutes of the show, of the segment here, how can people find you? How do we get in touch with you? How do we have you come speak to our groups?
You know what? I would absolutely love that. I have a website, harrys, as in Sam, Campbell.com, harryscampbell.com. On that, you can do a lot of cool things, including see me in action. I'm a bit quirky, a bit different, but I'll deliver if you hire me. The gross speaking fees go to charity. You can also find a link to my book. It's on Amazon, and it's also in the Kindle version. And the cool thing is there's a link on there for my 7 words. Jason, you had mentioned this earlier. I believe everybody has a personal brand. We think about brands, Coca-Cola and Southwest Airlines and Volvo, but frankly, everybody has a personal brand, and I think you need to find yours out. And it's 7 words that people think you are and how you are. I believe you should come up with your own. You should try to find out what the world thinks your 7 are, determine that gap, and really use that to your advantage in terms of building your success over time. So harryscampbell.com. Consider me to be hired. I will do a great job, I promise. I'm very flexible in my fees because I'm not doing it to make a living. I'm doing it in honor of my wife and to raise money for brain cancer research.
Wow. You guys.
Can I vote for Harry? Yeah. Can Harry run for something here? Because
I already voted for him.
I'd like to do a whole show with Harry.
I already jumped on the Harry bandwagon a long time ago.
I got to figure out something to run for, and then I can get votes. That's kind of sweet.
Yeah. Well, we love you, and thanks so much for coming on, Harry. Guys, check him out.
Guys, check out Harry Campbell, harryscampbell.com. Sarah, our final...